What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the KindaFunny Xcast, your home for all things Xbox here at KindaFunny. Of course, I'm one of your hosts, Snowbike Mike, and today I am joined by just one of my gaming dads, but my dude, my man, the coolest guy around, Mr. Gary Whitta. Gary, how you doing today on Friday?
Good. I'm a single parent today.
Single parent today, so you got a lot going on in the world. And
I know,
you're
and I know that
juggling a lot.
I know you can be a handful, so I have to stay on my toes.
Well, good, because as my single parent, my single gaming dad today, I'm expecting a lot of stories from you, Gary, because it's a Mike and Gary day. So we're gonna kick back.
Well,
Talk about the news.
Shoot the breeze. Yeah, we'll take it easy. It's Friday. We'll kick back. I like to imagine that we're on a porch somewhere at some night, like some place down in the south, like in a nice a nice summer evening. Drinking some tall, cool drinks with our feet up on our rocking chairs.
Yeah,
just shooting the breeze, maybe plucking on a banjo. That's the vibe that I want to go for here.
Well, let's go for that vibe, Gary. Let's kick it off. Hey, man, I see Loodle's doing well. Let's talk about Loodle for a second, Gary.
What a joke!
Had a big number right there, and then we got to talk about Wordle as well, because when you selling out, big dog, when are we getting that massive paycheck, Gary?
It's funny. So, I mean, for anyone who doesn't, because I wasn't on the show last week, right? So actually, this might be the first time that I've even been on the Xcast since Loodle became a thing. But just real quick, Wordle's really popular. We created kind of a parody of it called Loodle, which is like Wordle, but only with kind of rude words. And I expected it. It was created with me and my friend Adam Nickerson, who of course Mike works with us on Animal Talking, and we've done some other projects together. And he kind of took care. I was kind of like came up with the idea, and then Adam kind of went away and executed. He's a game developer, he went and did all the coding and created the website and got it up on its feet very quickly. Really impressive, actually. My wife Leah helped, with some of the, coming up with the dictionary, like how many rude words can we think of that are 5 letters long, and we put it out. What is it now? Let's see, what day are we on? Like day 16 or 17.
Wow.
Since we launched it, I expected it to be like a 2-day joke. Like people go, like dirty word. Like, I get it. Yeah, funny. What's next? And maybe a few people would play it. It'd be a 2-day joke. Maybe a few hundred, a few thousand people would play. Like, if a few thousand people played it, I would have been thrilled. We're on day 17, and we just passed 2 million active users. And we also yesterday broke our single user record with 352,000 games played yesterday. So wow. I don't know what to tell you. It's kind of ridiculous, but it's blown up in a way that I couldn't possibly have anticipated.
You're getting some engagement, Gary. That's really cool. And yeah,
big time engagement, big time metrics.
Fun. And I mean, that's so cool that you and Adam put this together along with your lovely wife. Like, that's really fun. And the idea coming along to kind of spice it up a little bit with the Wordle. But we're in acquisition season, as people have been calling it for years. And that guy from Wordle, he got picked up by the New York Times, right?
He's the big time. And and I was actually really glad to see, Mike, that I mentioned this because the news dropped when I was on KindaFunny with Greg earlier in the week. I was actually really glad to see that the public response to it, for the most part, I think in the main, was in the vein of good for him. He created something really cool. He did it in the right way. He didn't do it in a cynical way. There's actually a really charming story behind the creation of Wordle that I'm sure everyone's heard by now. And he ended up selling it to the New York Times, which he was partially inspired by those New York Times word games that he and his partner liked to play. And so the story just had kind of a really nice end with it being sold to the New York Times. And he's going to make a lot of money. Again, absolutely, he earned it. If you have a brilliant idea and execute it well, you should absolutely, benefit from that if the opportunity arises. And there's a few people, a little bit upset about the idea of the game possibly be going behind a paywall. But I think for the short term, it's going to remain free. And like I said, good for him. I couldn't be more happy for him. I hope they pay him a lot of money. He earned it.
Yeah, it's wild, Gary, to see that. Like, I know Wordle's gone for a little bit, but it feels like the overnight success story, right? Like, that thing caught fire really quick, took over social media posts, and now you see that, the acquisition and the sale. How cool, right? Like, that's really, really cool. So with you getting a lot of engagement, I always keep my eye on you like, dang, Gary Whitta could be rolling it. Money stacks all of a sudden.
Well, the metric, when I go to my Google Analytics, it will tell me exactly who's playing, where in the world they're playing, how many people are playing per minute, how long they spend on the website. It's actually really interesting to see, like, kind of behind the scenes of a website, like how it calculates all the numbers. The metric that I'm most proud of is our total revenue earned is $0.00. We have not made a penny off of the game. We're not selling advertising. You don't have to pay to play it. One of the things that we really wanted to do was avoid some of the missteps that some of the other Wordle clones made. Remember when they first came out of the gate, there was one guy that kind of created another app, called it Wordle, basically kind of an imposter app, and tried to monetize it by selling premium subscriptions. And the internet just tore his head off because they saw, a very predatory and cynical way to kind of rip off someone's cool idea. We wanted to make sure that people didn't think we were doing the same thing. So we kind of did all the same stuff that Wordle did. Put it in a browser. It's not an app. It's completely free. No obnoxious advertising or, any kind of monetization at all. And all along, we wanted to make sure that we acknowledged that, that without Wordle, we wouldn't be here. So every time you tweet out your results, it says go play Wordle. And even in the game as you're playing, it actually has a link to the original Wordle game. Not that Wordle needs any help, from us getting the word out about Wordle right now. It's already taken over the world. But we wanted to make sure that we were doing it kind of in good faith, and that people didn't think, we were trying to cash in or exploit it in any way. We really just wanted to make some people laugh. And some of the stories I've been seeing on Twitter from people playing the game and like having to teach their mothers what certain words mean. Like it's a vocabulary builder, Mike. I'll tell you that. You will learn some words that you never knew playing this game. I learned some words that I never knew. Just in the last 2 weeks, I've learned a lot of really interesting words. It's just been a ton of fun. And who knows how long it's going to last. We have enough words in the dictionary theoretically to last for about 6 months. There's way more rude 5-letter words out there than you think, but I don't know. Maybe I suspect an audience will get bored of it by then. I keep saying like today's the day it's going to peak, and then the next day I check and the numbers have gone up again. I don't know, but it's a fun train to ride while it lasts. We're enjoying it.
That's awesome, Gary. What a way to kick off the new year with something fun, some energy going on, and I love that you're paying respects to Wordle the way you're doing it. I love that 000 was up on the board. That's really cool. Yep. You're not taking any cash, and it's just fun to see you smile and do cool stuff.
I say I'm not going to earn any cash, but I'm telling you, wait until Pornhub comes in with that big money offer. I'll be on the first train.
You're the best, Gary. Well, let's also catch up. You're my single dad for the day, but you're also the big dad. You got the new baby, got the wife and the kids. You're having fun. You're always working hard. You got Loodle. But like, are you playing games, Gary? Like, what's the latest and greatest games you've been gaming on?
So, what have I been playing? So I think we were chatting briefly before the show. I did have big plans to play Dying Light 2. I installed it. I got ready to go. And then I saw some of I was watching you guys play it, and I read the Ars Technica review and the Guardian review and a bunch of others. I don't know, Mike. It seems like the word is on it that it's not as great as we had hoped. It sounded like I heard somebody saying like, once you get past the first 12 hours, it starts to get good. I'm like, I'm fucking 12 hours to wait for a game to get good. I don't know. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Gary, because I've been playing with friends and I've been playing it on the stream, and it is such a weird conversation to be like, hey, some of like the cooler movement mechanics and like some of the combat mechanics are like really put out later on in the game, right? You don't even have a slide at the beginning, Gary. So like the parkour feels good, but it doesn't feel great. It's missing some basic mechanics like slide, wall run, and so forth that are kind of put way deeper into the game. But for me, I really like the game, right? I am a Dying Light fan, so I enjoy the parkour, hack and slash zombie beat 'em up. I absolutely hated the story, and I despised all the bugs that I put up with that played into the story, that affected the story. And for me, I've put it simply of, if you're a Dying Light fan, you're looking for that parkour zombie hack and slash game right now to fill your February, go buy it. You're going to have a good time. You're going to get a lot of hours out of it, especially co-op has been a ton of fun. On the flip side, if you're looking for it, on the flip side, if you're just looking for a game and like you're semi-interested, this is that perfect go catch it on sale game. I like to go on, buy it day one, catch it on sale, skip it. And for me, this is that. If you're on the fence and you see the packed February we're about to have, that's an on sale game.
I know, and that's the thing. It's like coming into a meat grinder with all these other games out there competing for your attention. Speaking of a lot of game hours, I actually thought that some of the discussion around it, and it was prompted by a tweet that the developers put out. You may have seen this. I thought it was really interesting that they put out this tweet boasting that Dying Light 2 to play through the game was 500 hours of gameplay. Do you see this? And it was a really interesting example of like developers kind of failing to read the room or get a sense of what gamers want out of games these days. Because from where I'm sitting, and maybe I'm biased because this is what I want, but what I see is a prevailing mood, at least from some quarters, of people saying that they're a little bit tired of the games that take 200 hours to beat. Like they want shorter experiences that are manageable, that they feel like they can get to the end, have a complete experience, and move on to the next thing. That they don't necessarily want to get bogged down in 500 hours playing one game. Like games can be too long. And it was interesting because that clearly was the response that they then had to respond and say, oh, let's just clarify that 500 hours is if you want to do like every single thing in the game and like every collectible, every little thing. It's not actually going to take that long just to finish the story. That would be much shorter. But I thought it did prompt an interesting conversation around the game of this trend of a lot of game developers, especially at the AAA level, getting obsessed with size and quantity as opposed to quality, and being able to brag about how many 100 hours a game may take to complete is not impressing us the way it might have done back in the day when games first started to get really big and open world, and is in fact a turn off for a lot of you. Say to me 500 hours, I'm like, I ain't got that kind of time.
It's such an interesting, dual-sided coin here, right, Gary? Like the marketing team has a tough time. The game developers have a tough time selling that because I think what we want from open worlds is that big experience, that game that is going to have a bunch of hours of content that I can keep coming back to and enjoy and get the value out of my dollar, right? But of course, on the flip side, you have another part of it where it's like, whether it be game critics and game reviewers or people that are preferring a smaller, condensed, little experience, when they hear 500 hours, they're like, oh my God, absolutely not, right? Dying Light, in my opinion, I played a fair amount of the side quests and I did the main story. Took me about 30 hours to beat. And when you talk about that movement and stuff, some of the movement unlocks didn't unlock until hour 17, right? And so it is a sizable chunk. You're going to get a lot out of it, but it is interesting the day and age we live in, right, Gary? Like my open world games, when I think of Starfield, I want 500 hours out of Starfield. You know what I mean? Like that's what I want.
Mean, it depends on the game. If it's a game, like for me, the great example is Mass Effect. If it's just like a world that you love being in, right? I just loved every minute just being like feeling like I was in the Mass Effect universe, just exploring, just going around doing stuff and just feeling like I'm living in that world. Then I'm happy for the game to be, a big experience. But I think it's very, very rare that a game is so compelling that it justifies every hour that it's asking you to spend in it. So it's tough. If you're going to make a 500-hour game, you better also make sure that it's not just 500 hours long, but also that those 500 hours are 500 hours that you're happy to be spending in the game, and you don't feel like you're getting bogged down in busy work or the game, filler, those kind of things that are often used to get to these kind of grandiose, playtimes.
Yeah, it's really interesting, Gary, of like where we are with Dying Light, right? Because there's the gameplay side of it, and that's fun and addicting. Finding that flow state, running through the perfect line of parkour, jumping on a group of zombies and absolutely just hacking and slacking them to bits, right? But then there's the narrative, right? And I think for some people, like Janet brought up in our Gamescast review, she connected with it. For me, I was thrown off from it from missing dialogue, underdeveloped characters, to choices that just really didn't have the weight that I wanted to, right? It just was easy to choose one side or the other because one was really, really bad and they were awful the whole time, but asking me for help. And the other side were just people that were just kind of walking down the side of the road. And it's like, well, of course, I guess I'll just side with them, And so I don't know, how long does that narrative carry you, right? Can I get 500 hours out of Dying Light 2 on just the back of parkour and zombie hack and slashing alone? Or how much does that narrative have to carry it, Gary?
Yeah, and it's hard to believe that there's a narrative that sustains you for 500 hours of gameplay. And again, they said that it's not. There's a lot of stuff outside of the story. Anyway, I just thought, like I said, it's basically everything I saw. The point I'm making is this: my gaming time is so limited and so precious that I really resent having it wasted. And even if I spend an hour or 2 hours trying to get into a game, like if somebody says to me, "Oh yeah, you've got to put like 8 hours in and then maybe it'll click," that's a risk I'm not willing to take. I could go play The Artful Escape twice in 8 hours, right, and have a complete game experience. Or find another game that grabs me from the off, and like I know within like half an hour or an hour, oh yeah, like I can see myself playing this for a while. I don't want to spend 8 hours auditioning a game to figure out if it's for me. And after 8 hours going, this isn't for me. That was 8 hours wasted. I wasn't really enjoying it. I was waiting for it to get good. It never happened. There could have been a better use of my time.
Okay, let me tell you about 2 games that are worth your time. One, the embargo is now up and I'm allowed to talk about my experience. Ollie World.
Oh, Gary, so yeah, I installed. Tell me, because that's my next game up. Tell
Yes,
me.
this game stole my heart, Gary. It's my first time ever playing an Ollie Ollie title. And I'm a big skate guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Big Tony Hawk guy. I love extreme sports. And I was like, okay, what's Ollie Ollie World, right? It looks like the side scroller, kind of like Trials, where you're
Right.
going to just
Yeah.
want that one more try to be better. And it grabbed me right from the moment go when you turn this on. It's bright, it's colorful, it has really cool, unique characters and worlds around it. But the one thing that kept you going is the soundtrack, Gary. The
I
moment
hear
it
the
hits,
music's great.
you're
Yeah.
just nodding your head and you're skating. Every single push is a blast, and they're fun and challenging levels, right? Like they're very welcoming to beginners, which I am, right? They teach you the ropes, they tell you all about what you need to do to complete each level and the fun side objectives, and you just have fun doing every level over and over again, whether you fail or you succeed and you want to go for more. It's a really good time, and the character creator is top notch. You can really customize and create the character you want to see in the world. And you get to see some wild and crazy, wacky people out there where you're like, man, I want that, or I want to look like that guy. And you can. And it's cool, Gary. It's really, really dope.
Yeah, I'm glad you reminded me because I installed that this week, and that's actually my game that I want to get into this weekend because I think my kid will probably really enjoy it as
Yep.
well. I love the aesthetic. It looks really cool. I love games that have good music. Even a game that I don't like super enjoy, I'll play if the soundtrack is really great. And yeah, it just looks like a ton of fun. So that's actually I'm going to sit down with my kid this weekend and see if we can both get into it because that to me is so again. That's a game that you're going to know in 5 minutes whether or not it's going to be for you, right? And you have to play that for 8 hours to wait for something to click. It's just there. The appeal is right there from the beginning. So Ollie Ollie World. I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad you reminded me. That's on deck for this weekend.
But that is perfect pick up, put down, pick up again
Yep.
game whenever you
Yep.
need it. Up next, Gary, a game that stole my heart and we haven't been able to talk about much on our podcast, but I did talk about over on a post show, Rainbow Six Extraction, Gary.
Yes.
This game is better than the reviews, in my opinion. This game is good. This game is great, Gary, and it's a ton of fun to play, whether it be solo or with your crew of 3. Like, it's tactical, it's collaborative, it's fun, it's exciting, it's heart-pounding action, and like they did a really good job where we're coming off of Back for Blood, Aliens Fireteam Elite, right? You think of World War Z and these other games, and it's just a different lane of those kind of just hang out and have fun with your friends zombie shoot 'em up game, right? And like this is perfect because you have 2 options. You can zone out, murder a bunch of aliens, and hopefully make it through the level, or you can be like, yo, let's take a deep breath. Let's be real tactical about it, just like in the E3 presentations. And it's fun, Gary. It's a good time.
Yeah, so I played it a little last weekend with Khalif and my friend Chastity from Ubisoft, who works there.
Yeah.
And because she works there, she had been playing the game for a while pre-release, and she already kind of she really knew how to play the game. So she was kind of our squad leader, saying, "Okay, you're going to want to do this," and she was kind of taking care of us and making sure that we had because my first time playing. And yeah, how many times have I said to you on the podcast, like I really hope that Rainbow Six Extraction is going to be good because it's the kind of game that if it is good, I'm going to love it. But there hadn't been a lot of chatter on it prior to release. And then I was surprised because when it initially dropped, a lot of people were talking about how much they were loving it. I was, oh, maybe it is good. And then but then the reviews ended up being more of a mixed bag. So I don't know. All I know is I don't care what anyone else thinks. My question is, do I enjoy playing it? And I loved playing it. What I like about it is it's a very different vibe to all of those other squad-based horde shooters that are out there, which are, whether you talk about World War Z, Aliens Fireteam, Back for Blood, we talked about all of these kind of games that are out there right now. And those are all very much about like mayhem, right? Just mow your way through hordes and hordes and hordes of zombies. And of course, that's tons of fun. We love that. That's why those games are really popular. But this is a very different approach. This actually takes me all the way back. I'm going to show my age here to the beginning of the Tom Clancy gaming franchise, all the way back to the original Rainbow Six.
Make me black.
The original Rainbow Six on PC back in the late 90s when I was editor of PC Gamer. We used to play the hell out of that. And it was kind of, I think they kind of revisited it a bit with, with what they have now, which is Rainbow Six Siege. But the original Rainbow Six on PC was very, very methodical and tactical. Before you could even kind of go into first person mode, there was like a blueprint, like planning the siege mode. Like, okay, you're going to come in through the top window. I'm going to come in through this door. Everything's going to be coordinated before we go in. And it was very tactical. It was one shot kill. You couldn't afford to make a mistake. It was very grounded, very real. And that was a different energy for shooters, at the time. And it's a different energy again now in this genre where so many of these horde shooters are about mayhem, just like, bullets and flamethrowers going off everywhere. And again, we love that. What I like about this is very different energy. It's very tactical. It's very methodical. If you don't think about what you're going to do next, and if you don't have good teamwork with your other two squad mates, you're going to get in trouble real quick. Right.
Yeah.
And that's the vibe. That's what I like about it.
I like that, Gary. And you make me think back on the legacy of Rainbow Six, right? I was a big fan of Vegas. I loved Rainbow Six Vegas. What a great time. You get dashes of that in Siege, right? You can see the evolution of where they went from Vegas. And even when you're bringing up the old school ones on PC, and it's just like, what a storied franchise. What a lot of great games in that from my childhood that I loved. And I still get a taste of that with Siege, and now definitely with Extraction, which is just the perfect team up with your friends game. But yeah, my final one, while we're just kicking it here on the porch and we're having some fun, it's February, Gary. And it's not October through December anymore. Now in the gaming world, we're dropping games in spring,
all year
February
round.
and March, all year round, Gary.
24/7, 365.
February's hot. February's hot right now. What games are you excited for? Because I think a lot of people, they get to hear us, but like they don't really know what Gary Witt is into. And so February is a perfect one of like, there's a lot of games this month. Are there any that stick out to you like, yo, this is the game I'm playing, y'all get ready?
So I know everyone's talking about Elden Ring as the big one, right? And I'm definitely interested in that. The George R.R. Martin, collaboration on the story side is really potentially exciting and interesting. And it looks really, really cool. And it's probably the most hyped game that's coming out in the short term. My only worry about it is because it's From Software, and I've never played any of these Bloodborne Souls games because I don't like games that are too punishingly difficult. Is if any of that is present in this game, it's one of those games where you're constantly dying and you got to fight the boss 500 different times to figure out like how to defeat him. It's not going to be for me. So I won't know until I get my hands on it. I'm a little bit concerned about the From Software of it all. But as a big open world kind of fantasy original piece of storytelling, it could be really interesting. So I won't know until I get my hands on it, but I'm definitely, it's on my radar for sure. What else is coming out in February? Remind what are the other big ones?
Yeah, we got a big month of February. So coming up next, we have Sifu and Horizon, and then to end the month, we will go to Elden Ring. So you got some other games coming out this month as well to look forward to.
I know Leah is very excited about getting her teeth into the new Horizon because she loved the first game, absolutely loved it. And Sifu is it because I love these kind of martial arts brawler type games. That looks really, really fun to me as well. And again, Elden Ring's the big one. But again, the issue is like just the backlog. I mean, it happens all the time, right? It's like, I'm going to play this game, but then the next bright shiny object comes along and kind of like jumps it in the queue. And there are some games that I really want to play, but never seem to kind of make it into position A, where that's the next game up that I'm going to play. So I mean, it's an embarrassment of riches, but this has been a problem for a while. There's just too much, especially with Game Pass, especially with all the different ways to kind of get games now. There's too many games, not enough hours in the day.
Not enough hours, and there's still some more to add to that, right? You got Destiny's coming out with their expansion, which we're going to talk about Bungie in just a little bit here. Then for you, Gary Witt, I'm going to go wild on you. I'm going to get kind of nerdy. Okay, get ready to join me at the table because I'm going to check out Total War Warhammer 3, Gary Witt. I'm going to check that out and see if I can connect with Warhammer, which I'm excited about. And finally, I know it's not in February, Gary, but I love to get you amped up and maybe getting ready to get a little tricky. In March, you and I are going to be shredding the slopes in shredders, and they continue to come out with great teaser videos where they partner up with pro snowboarders. They just linked up with Gimbal God. And Gary, let me tell you about the Gimbal God really quick. Let me tell this podcast about the Gimbal God. All those epic shots you see from old school Warren Miller movies to new age snowboard flicks or the X Games where somebody's right behind the pro stunter doing all the jumps, right?
Yeah, getting those amazing shots.
Correct. That's the Gimbal God, Gary. That's what he's known for. So this guy is like the cream of the crop when it comes to filming pro athletes, especially snowboarders and skateboarders, because he's right behind you and he doesn't miss, And so they teamed up with him. He did a couple of lines with the team over at Shredders, and it just continues to look good. It looks better and better every time, Gary, and I cannot wait to get my hands
That's
on
good.
this.
I always find my creativity improves after I've done a couple of lines. So, so I'm expecting good things. No, so I, as you know, Mike, I've been chasing that SSX vibe ever since the original. Do you need a moment?
No, I love it. I love it. Keep going.
I've been chasing the SSX vibe that I love so much ever since SX3 on the original Xbox. You know how I always talk about SSX and how much I'd love to bring that back. EA looks like they're not going to bring it back anytime soon. So, you know, we gotta find that vibe elsewhere. I tried Riders Republic. I thought, you know, it was really polished, really slick, but it didn't quite stick with me. And this is the next big hope, right? And so it's just got to, if it can make me feel the way that SSX3 made me feel back in the day, then I'll be all over it. I'm definitely excited to try it out because it's like I said, it's the next big thing to hope for gamers like us who love those kind of extreme down the slopes, you know, experiences. And it's not, we haven't been very well served over the years with those. Like Amped went away. Like, you know, are they ever going to bring back Amped? You know, SSX is gone. Like these kind of games, you'd think there's a genre that would be better served, especially when, you know, we all know how much like people love Tony Hawk type games. Like, why not bring that? Why not bring that vibe over to the you know, the Winter Sports? You know, the Winter Olympics starting this week. Like, there's a lot.
Get ready.
This is the excitement, but Shredders is really the only one that we get to hope for. I'm hoping this is another one that I really hope will be good because I'll spend a lot of time in a game like that if it's good.
Good. I can't wait to shred the gnar with you. Let's jump into it, though, Gary. We got to hang out on the porch. Now let's talk about the news. Of course, this is the KindaFunny Xcast. We post each and every Saturday at 6 a.m. West Coast, Best Coast time on youtube.com/KindaFunnyGames, roosterteeth.com, and, of course, on podcast services around the globe. Don't forget that we are now Epic Games partners, which means if you are buying V-Bucks in Fortnite, if you're upgrading your car in Rocket League, or you're going out and buying the greatest new releases on the Epic Games Store on PC, please use our Epic Creator Code at checkout, KindaFunny. It's no additional cost to you, and you can support the team in a brand new way. When I talk about support, Gary, I love to give a big thank you to our Patreon supporters, the people, the hardworking men and women who go out and support us over on Patreon, just like our Patreon producers for the month of February. Thank you to Gordon McGuire, James Davis at James Davis Makes, Pranksky, Tyler Ross, Delaney Twinning, First Responder ND, Julian the Gluten-Free Gamer, James Hastings, and Casey Andrew. So thank you all so much for your support on Patreon. Finally, the KindaFunny Xcast this week is sponsored by DoorDash, but myself and the team will tell you all about that in just a little bit. Gary, let's talk about the news. And we got a really great one because Phil Spencer is about to be honored with a great award coming up very, very soon. Phil Spencer is set to receive the Lifetime Achievement Award at the 25th Annual DICE Awards. So coming over from the blog post, it reads, the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences today announced that Phil Spencer, CEO of Microsoft Gaming, will be the recipient of AIAS Lifetime Achievement Awards. Phil Spencer will be honored at the 25th Annual DICE Awards ceremony, which will be held at Mandalay Bay Resort in Las Vegas and live streamed on Thursday, February 24th at 8 p.m. Bethesda Game Studios game director and executive producer Todd Howard will present the 2022 Lifetime Achievement Award to Mr. Spencer. Gary Whitta, you're a man that has won multiple awards. This is a big-time award, a big-time honor for Phil and the team over at Xbox. What kind of things are you thinking about when you were receiving your BAFTA awards?
You know, I'll say this about Phil. The one thing that I saw when they announced that this week, just from watching the Twitter chatter, was like the number one sentiment that I saw was well deserved, and I agree with that. I think it is well deserved. If you look at what Phil inherited, we've talked about it a lot on this Xcast. The Xbox One era was not a successful era for Microsoft. It just wasn't. It was, you know, it was kind of the dark era. The first Xbox was successful. The 360 was fantastic. And then Xbox One, they just kind of drove the car into a ditch. And so by the time they had that management shakeout and Phil Spencer inherited all of that stuff, he really did inherit kind of a wounded brand, right? The Kinect and this kind of misguided all things to all people, plug your cable into it, Xbox television studios and all this other stuff that they shut down and people didn't want. Like that really, kind of harmed the brand, and they lost a lot of ground to Sony. And if you look at basically the short version of this, if you just look at where the Xbox was when Phil inherited it, which was not in a great state, and look at where it is now, and the way that people talk about Xbox, not just because of all the big, aggressive acquisitions that have been grabbing the headlines recently, but, the Game Pass strategy and refocusing the hardware on the games and, the Series S and all these really, really smart ideas that they've had. And just a general sense from Phil that he genuinely gets this stuff and he really loves this stuff. And, he's not just like, another suit, but like he really does believe the stuff that he's telling you. And is doing it in a sincere way. I just think he's been a terrific tonic for Microsoft and the Xbox brand, and as the games for the games industry as a whole. I think a lot of people these days in leadership in video games look to Phil and go, we need to do more of what he's doing. Like this is increasingly becoming a model for just kind of like good leadership and good stewardship of a gaming franchise. So yeah, thoroughly well deserved. Just a genuinely nice guy as well. I've told you the animal talking story a million times. He just always comes across as a very authentic, down to earth guy. And yeah, well deserved. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
Yeah, congratulations on behalf of the Xcast and Kinda Funny crew, Phil Spencer, and all of the team over there. An awesome and honor, and you are the GOAT, so keep it up. Of course, Phil, you know him, he's a team player, right? He's all about the team, and so he went and responded to that tweet, Gary, with, "The people we work with are the most important part of any progress. This is so true for me. Not only members of Team Xbox, but also players, partners, other platform holders have all helped me learn, grow, and realize the opportunity we have. Thank you." So really nice tweet out there responding to that. And of course, we will see Phil over at the DICE Awards coming up on February 24th to receive this Lifetime Achievement Award, which is a really, really special one and really awesome to see Phil and the team. And you brought up where we were, what he's done, and the great accomplishments. So congratulations, Phil. Can't wait to watch that, hear the speech, and of course, see what Todd brings to the table. I'm sure Todd will have some jokes, have some fun stories between him and Phil before he hands off the award, which will be great. Let's keep it rolling, Gary. We got a fun one, and this is right up your alley because you used to be a GTA role player, and we now have
for a short while, yeah.
you were a wild one, but we now have actual confirmation from Rockstar that GTA 6 is now in development. So coming from the blog post regarding GTA 5 and the next gen edition, of course, down at the bottom it says, "What's next?" With the unprecedented longevity of GTA 5, we know many of you have been asking us about a new entry in Grand Theft Auto series. With every new project we embark on, our goal is always to significantly move beyond what we have previously delivered. And we are pleased to confirm that active development for the next entry in the Grand Theft Auto series is well underway. We look forward to sharing more as soon as we are ready, so please stay tuned to the Rockstar Newswire for official details. On behalf of our entire team, we thank you all for your support and cannot wait to step into the future with you, Rockstar Games. So there it is, Gary. That's like the first official confirmation from the actual team there. We've known that GTA 6 is clearly going to be on the horizon. What's next? But we also know that GTA 5 just continues to sell well, and we're getting the next gen version coming up very, very soon. And GTA Online continues to dominate the landscape. And so I bring it up to you. Let's first talk about the development, right? It says that development is well underway. So where are we, Gary? Where are we in this timeline of GTA 6? How far do you really think it is away?
Well, first of all, I thought that the reaction to the announcement this week really illustrated just what a massive shadow Grand Theft Auto casts over the entire entertainment landscape, not just gaming, but like all of entertainment. Because of course we already knew they were making GTA 6. Like, gee, I wonder if they're going to make a sequel to the biggest money-making entertainment property in history. Of course we all know that everyone's talking about GTA 6. We've been talking about, is GTA 6 going to be, it's not a question of are they doing it, it's like, what's it going to be? Is it going to be back to Vice City? Is it going to be Liberty City? Are they going to go someplace new? What's going to be the time frame? Like we basically having these conversations already kind of like baked in that, of course, the game is happening, right? We're past that. We know we don't need an official announcement from Rockstar. Of course, they're doing GTA 6. We'd be shocked if they didn't. And yeah, even with all of that certainty, the actual announcement, just the nod from Rockstar, was treated like massive, massive news, because yeah, it is massive news. That official confirmation means everything. But you raise an interesting point, because what I was saying is like, okay, so why this week? Why now? Right?
Oh,
What
okay, yeah.
prompted them to break cover and officially make the statement, which they knew would get, a million news hits? Yeah, we can confirm we're working on GTA 6. Like, it's not like sometimes this stuff happens because there's a leak and they need to respond, they need to get out in front of it or whatever. But this seems to be completely unprompted. Like, there wasn't anything big happening in the GTA world, more than normal, it's just another week. And they come out of nowhere and drop this news, which is, again, hugely consequential for GTA fans and anyone who's interested in video games or entertainment. It's just a massive piece of popular culture at this point. So I'm curious to know, like, what the behind the scene. Maybe they were just like, fuck it, should we just tell them we're doing it? Like, maybe it wasn't that big a deal, or maybe there was some more thought put into it. I don't know, but it's nice to know that we're officially off and running, and that the next thing we see is probably going to be something substantial, like some visuals, a sense of what the new game might be about, where it might be set. Just like it's going to start to take shape now, and it's going to be exciting. Like, the very first thing they mentioned in that that statement was that they acknowledged the longevity of the first game. Right? I mean, think about it. This was an Xbox 360 game, right? We're 2 generations past that now, and it's still hugely, hugely popular. It's still, it's like, is it ever out of like the top 10 selling games? It's always, people are still buying it. It goes on sale, people grab it. There's obviously a massive, massive long tail through Grand Theft Auto Online. They just had that huge, content drop with Dr. Dre, and the GTA is still, like, things are happening like all the time. The role-playing servers are super, super popular. Rockstar, I'm sure, is making tons of money, with the microtransactions and, buying the in-game currency and that kind of stuff. So it is kind of crazy to see just how much of a lifespan GTA 5 has had. And that is the reason, at least in part, I'm sure, while we've had to wait so long for GTA 6. It's just like, why bring out a new one when you can just let the existing one sit there and continue to make money for it, like basically perform at the level of a newly released game every week after week, year after year. I mean, it's crazy. But yeah, like, let's go back to the beginning. It was we knew they were doing it, but it's still nice to know for sure,
Hey, you bring up a good point, Gary. It's February 4th, 2022. Why today? Why this week, right? What is the situation where we got to talk about Grand Theft Auto 6 or the next entry now, right? We're nearing almost a decade of Grand Theft Auto 5. That came out in 2013, Gary.
Yeah,
So, is this a nod of like, hey, maybe this summer we get the big title card and the splash screen and maybe a name? Maybe is it another year and we get to see gameplay and the location and maybe a release on a decade after GTA 5? Or could I really, after this nod, will they really go silent for another 2 to 4 years waiting to release this? It's wild to think today. You brought up a good point. Today,
yeah, who knows?
Why?
It could have been it could have been like a corporate thing, like a shareholder thing. I don't know, because again, news of this level falls into the I haven't checked Take-Two's stock price today, but this is the kind of thing where when they announce that, it can move the share price of the parent company. So, this is potentially, it's big. It's big business news. It's big industry news. It's obviously news that's hugely, consequential to fans of the series. Again, who knows the reason why. Rockstar is one of the most opaque companies in the business, right? We never really kind of get to see behind the curtain. We don't know why they make the decisions that they make. They're always very, very quiet, very circumspect. They don't court PR. They don't need it, right? People just eat up everything that they do. They don't do a ton of press or interviews. Like, does Rockstar even have a PR person? I honestly don't know. They don't need one, right? They just put the games out and then print the money. So it's interesting. Again, the why of it, there could be any number of reasons, from the innocuous to get to like the more kind of business focused. But yeah, it's up there for me. I mean, if you could magically, propel yourself forward in time to the release date of any one game in the future, I don't know. For me, I'm pretty sure it would be GTA 6.
Oh, no doubt, Gary. Yes, the game. I mean, the games always rock. Is right. They absolutely crush it with that. But let's play the game again. What do you expect, Gary? So I have two big questions for you. Let's first talk about the setting because I thought of you today again because you and I have talked about where is the setting, right? Will it be here in America? Will they stick with that culture, or could we go outside the borders and create something new? And I kind of thought of the East. I thought of Sleeping Dogs. I thought of Yakuza,
Yeah.
maybe Japan, right? I thought, man, I would be into that. I don't want to go to Europe, Gary, and I know I said this about Forza Horizon 4 as well. I don't want another Sleeping Dogs, Gary. We just had Watch Dogs Legion. My apologies. I'd rather go to Japan than Europe. But I want to know, what's your vibe? Do you think we got to stay in America on this, or can we go outside the borders and can it actually have the staying power like the others?
Other than wasn't it like GTA 2 that was in London? I can't remember, but for the most part, the iconic locations that everyone knows are Liberty City, Vice City, and then the cities of San Andreas, right? Primarily Los Santos. So I was saying all along, for the longest time, I was saying I want them to go back to Vice City because I just love that vibe. The kind of the neon, the pastels, the kind of the 80s Miami Vice vibe. We just enjoy that so much. But I kind of I don't think they'll go back to Liberty City because they were there. They were there, not long ago. I don't think they'll do another one in San Andreas because they've spent a ton of time there. I would like to see them go somewhere completely different. Like, let's introduce a new city, a new fictional city to the GTA universe, and that could be a city in America. It could be Latin America, like you said. It could be in Japan, in Asia. I think it would be really interesting in terms of bringing like a more international vibe to it. At the same time, there is something very quintessentially American about GTA, even though it's made in Scotland, right? There's something very, very American. It's always been a very acerbic, kind of counter commentary on kind of American popular culture. Los Santos and Liberty City kind of like hold up this kind of mirror to, the real world versions of themselves in New York and LA. And that's part of the delightfulness of it. So I don't know. I get the sense it will probably stay in America, but maybe, again, let's open up a different city. Let's go somewhere we haven't seen before rather than back to familiar territory.
I think that's the most fun conversation you can have about GTA is like, where is the setting? And everybody has their dream preferred setting. And you kind of have like, well, the roadmap since 3, when it's become the gigantic pop culture icon, has always been in America, right? And so do we do that again? Where do they go? It's fun to think about. But another wild one to think about, Gary, and something that you've done before, of course, GTA role playing, but GTA Online. What do you do with GTA Online? Do we cut the servers and make you restart? Do you somehow migrate everybody to a new map and say, hey, welcome to Grand Theft Auto 6 Online? You're just same characters, same amount of money, same cars, but you're in the new world. Or will we cut ties with GTA Online? How hard is that going to be?
Well, they're going to want to make sure that they preserve what they already have with GTA Online, right? Which is a big, money spinner. They have a lot of players that play there every day. They make a lot of money doing it. They're not going to want to, upset the apple cart. So maybe GTA Online will end up kind of being like their war zone, right? Like, where there's like more new games that come out, and not at the same frequency of Call of Duty games. But the online version is the thing that persists. Maybe they'll give it some kind of upgrade. Maybe they'll transition people over to a new thing. It's really, really hard to say, but I imagine that as Rockstar are planning the launch of GTA 6, how that is going to interact with the future of GTA Online and what does that mean is going to be a big part of their planning. So it'll be interesting to see what they do come up with.
Do you think that, you're a World of Warcraft guy, Gary, and you probably would know this well, of like, do you think they could keep GTA Online in San Andreas and maybe make a new map where you travel to, but would you worry about the player base picking and choosing which map is better? You don't want to leave the original, or hey, the new one's new, fresh, and cool. We're never going back to the old school spots. Like, do you see them doing a 2-map situation?
It's really, really hard to say. Again, I feel like they're going to want to keep the people that are already playing GTA and who know the map, in GTA Online, who already know Los Santos backwards and front. They're probably going to want to keep those people going. Maybe there'll be 2 versions of it. Maybe there'll be like the Los Santos GTA Online. Maybe the new GTA Online is attached to whatever the new location for GTA 6 is, and maybe there'll be the ability to kind of jump between the two. Maybe they'll just expand it where GTA Online is now 2 massive different cities, and there's you can move between them. There's all kinds of technical infrastructure, networking questions regarding that, creative questions, game design questions. It's going to be a big task because the thing about GTA is there's a lot. I remember because I worked on Star Wars. I know this, when you're working on something that is so valuable and is looked at by so many people, it's a big responsibility to move it into the next chapter, because you want to evolve it, you want to contribute something to it, but you don't want to break what you've inherited, right? You don't want to spoil it, and that's the risk you take every time you do something new.
Well, exciting. We now know it's underway officially, and we will patiently await what Rockstar does next. Let's take a moment and hear a word from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by DoorDash. If you've been listening to any kind of funny podcast, you know that we absolutely love using DoorDash. It's so great. It's so simple to just be able to order whatever food we want and then have it delivered right to our house. Along with the restaurants you love, you can now get groceries and other essential items delivered with DoorDash. You can get some drinks, snacks, and other household items in under an hour. With over 300,000 partners, you can support your neighborhood go-tos. We always talk about Volcano Curry in San Francisco, of course. Ordering is easy, and your items will be left outside your door when you choose contactless delivery drop-off, whether it is the local favorites or the nationwide chains like things like Popeyes, Cheesecake Factory, all of that. For a limited time, y'all can get 25% off and 0 delivery fees on your first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter code KindaFunny. That's 25% off up to a $10 value and 0 delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter code KindaFunny. Don't forget, that's code KindaFunny for 25% off your first order with DoorDash. Subject to change, terms apply.
All right, Gary, welcome back. I got a fun one for you. And as Xbox gamers, we know and love this studio. But maybe it might be time to say goodbye? Question mark? Maybe not. Let's talk about it, because PlayStation acquires Bungie for $3.6 billion, Gary, this week. So another big one with a B. And of course, B for Bungie as well, which is near and dear to all of our hearts. But let's read directly from the PS blog from Jim Ryan. He's going to have 2 for you. Today, I'm happy to announce Bungie will be joining the PlayStation family. First off, I want to be very clear to the community that Bungie will remain an independent and multi-platform studio and publisher. As such, we believe it makes sense for it to sit alongside the PlayStation Studio organization, and we are incredibly excited about the opportunities for synergies and collaboration between these 2 world-class groups. I've spent a lot of time with Pete Parsons, Jason Jones, and the Bungie management team to develop the right relationships where they will be fully backed and supported by Sony Interactive Entertainment and enabled to do what they do best, build incredible worlds that captivate millions of people. Gary, Bungie going to PlayStation. But there's a catch. They're still going to stay multi-platform. So how do you feel about this acquisition? You know, it's acquisition season. Studios going left and right and center. But Bungie, near and dear to all of our hearts as the Xbox family. What do you think about them going to the other side?
It's another big acquisition, another big consolidation. When you think about it, it isn't anywhere near as big as the Activision one. It's in terms of money spent. Was it like they spent a 20th of what Microsoft spent on Activision Blizzard? And that reflects, obviously Activision Blizzard has a much larger portfolio. Bungie really is just kind of like Destiny Incorporated at this point. But we all know that that's not all it's ever going to be. I'm sure Bungie have got, I already know what the next game they want, the next big thing is, and the next big thing after that. And Destiny itself obviously is continues to be hugely successful. And my good friend Michael Pachter I saw in the week was saying that he thinks Sony overpaid. I like Mike a lot, but I don't agree. I think when you think about what it, and they made a point of talking about this, when you think about what they've bought, he even heard this story about these crazy kind of $1 million retention bonuses that Sony's been throwing around to Bungie employees because they want people to stay at the company. They didn't just buy Destiny, although that is a tremendously valuable brand that will continue to be valuable for years. Destiny's going to be around for years. They bought, a massive studio with a ton of talented people who have very, very specific institutional knowledge, which, is specific to running live service games. And that's something that Sony don't have a lot of strength in. I was talking to Greg about this on KFGD earlier this week. Sony, when it comes to like the single player narrative experiences, they kill it, right? Last of Us, Uncharted, Horizon, There's others I'm blanking on, not even thinking about right now. But there's Spider-Man, right? All the Insomniac stuff. They're so good at this. Like those big single player cinematic story based experiences that don't necessarily have like much in the way of a kind of an online back end. They crush God of War. Like again, they keep coming to me, right? They crush it. But where they haven't had a ton of success is in that live service universe, where a lot of companies want to get into that. They know there's a pot of gold at the end of that rainbow if they can get that right. Bungie's demonstrated it is possible because they got it right with Destiny. And I said to Greg earlier this week, like if I were looking to get into the live service video game business, I'm like, who can we just buy? Who like basically turns this into a turnkey operation for us? Like who knows the most? Who has had the most success and the most experience making these kind of big, ambitious live service type games? Yeah, it's Bungie. So it makes a lot of sense if that's an area that Sony wants to move into. And they're inheriting all of this expertise again, plus whatever Bungie wants to do now. Whatever game Bungie announces next is going to be a huge deal. Destiny 3, I'm sure at some point we'll see that. There obviously is a question in the saying, we were all kind of laughing and joking about, Call of Duty a couple of weeks ago. Or, what are Sony fans going to do if Call of Duty comes to Xbox exclusively? Well, the shoe's on the other foot this week, right? If you're a Destiny fan and an Xbox player, you might be worried that maybe Destiny 3 might not be coming to your platform. And Sony have made a lot of representations about it's going to stay multi-platform. Again, I felt like the language was just, vague enough that there's some wiggle room. It's nothing was really like, there weren't any like ironclad commitments. Like he didn't come out and say the next Destiny game will be on the Xbox. Don't worry about it. Like they're keeping their powder dry on that one. I think Destiny 2, there'll continue to be more expansions for that. I think that will continue to be multi-platform. When Destiny 3 and or whatever the next, Bungie mega game is, whether or not that's fully available on the Xbox, to me, that's still up in the air. I don't know what Sony's going to do.
Gary, we talk about Bungie and you talk about them killing the live service game, right? And Bungie has been absolutely crushing it with Destiny 1 and Destiny 2. What are they gaining from this acquisition? They're going over to PlayStation. What do you think of the kind of things that they're gaining? There was a lot of conversation, of course, as staying self-published and multi-platform if they choose to be. Then on the flip side, there was conversations about maybe leveraging Sony to help them expand what they want to see with Destiny, maybe in the movies and television routes. Is that something what really is Bungie walking away from in a positive note here, selling themselves to that?
I mean, it's interesting with Bungie in particular because this is a company that is very well known for always wanting to kind of assert its own destiny, no pun intended, and its own independence, right? Bungie was originally the internal Halo team at Microsoft, right? They were the guys that made not in-house, but they were Microsoft's Bungie team. They were Microsoft's Xbox team, right? But they wanted to be independent. They didn't want to just be the studio that was constantly cranking out Halo games for Microsoft. So they went off and did their own thing. And that's how we got 343 to come in and replace them. Next thing you know, they're all tied up with Activision Blizzard. And then they got out of that. They didn't want to be doing that anymore either. So every turn, Bungie's always seemed to kind of made these representations that they prefer to be independent. They didn't necessarily want to be under some bigger corporate umbrella. And so in that regard, it's kind of surprising that they've decided they now want to be kind of wholly owned by Sony. So what is it? What is in it for them? Well, obviously a lot of money, right? Yeah. For the principals of the company, I'm sure are a lot richer this week. And with probably some really, really good financial incentives and all kinds of stuff going forward, probably Sony stock, all kinds of stuff. And then again, I'm sure you saw this story about, I don't know exactly how far it goes, but like a lot, even like kind of rank and file employees being paid these $1 million retention bonuses to stay with the company. So, if I run a big gaming studio and Sony comes in and says, we're going to buy you, and part of that is basically everyone who works at the studio is going to become a millionaire. Like, how do you say no to that?
How do you say no to that, Gary? That's a sweet deal right there, if that's what you're selling is right. Okay.
So it seems to make sense for everyone right now. Again, there's a lot of, bigger picture conversation out there about, when the dust settles, there's only going to be 2 or 3 companies left and they'll own everything. And it's not going to be good for consumer choice or, competitiveness. And, maybe that will, maybe that's true. We could be getting closer and closer to that. But for right now, again, just like with the Activision Blizzard deal, it's too big and it's too new to have any kind of sensible prediction about what this means down the road. It's going to take a couple of years for things to fall into place and to start to see, like, okay, I get it now. This is what Bungie is doing now under Sony's ownership, or this is what Activision Blizzard King is doing under Microsoft's ownership. The picture will come into focus not in weeks, not in months, but in years to come. We'll start to fully understand what it all means.
Yeah, it'll be really exciting to see. And of course, Bungie, the creators of Halo. But let's talk more Halo. Let's segue over to a tweet from our good friend Joe Staten over with the 343 team. He wrote this week, "Hey folks, in November, I said we'd have an Halo Infinite update on our seasonal roadmap, co-op and Forge in January. We need more time to finalize our plans, so what we share is something you can rely on. This work is my top priority, and we'll have an update as soon as we can." So Big Joe over at 343 letting us know that seasonal roadmap will be a little bit later than expected. They're working on it. Where do you fall, Gary? You are the casual Halo player. Where do you fall? Are you still engaged with Halo? Have you fallen off Halo completely? Will Big Joe and the team sell you with a roadmap of content that will get you back and re-engaged in this?
I wasn't casual when it first came out, Mike. I was obsessed. I was playing it every single night of the week, and my lunch hour, like anytime I could get on and play, I was playing, and I was loving every minute of it. And then something happened. I don't know, like life got in the way, and I just kind of like put the controller down one day, and like it's I didn't come back. I don't know why, but I'm like that oftentimes. Like I get the bit between my teeth or something, and I'm really, 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 really into it, and then like I just lose interest. Like I'm just done. But I have heard. I've been continuing to follow, what's happening, and the back and forth, with big team battle and stuff that's happening there, and the ongoing conversation about the cosmetics and season pass and microtransactions. And I know that there's a lot has changed behind the scenes. So if I were to jump back into Halo now, having not played for probably at least 7 weeks, I'd probably, oh shit, they changed this, they changed that, because I'm not seeing the changes every day as they come in. I'm going to see like 6-7 weeks worth of changes in terms of the maps, the balancing, all the other tweaks that they've been making. Then they just introduced like a whole new mode. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's been in there since I last played.
Yeah, during some of the seasonal updates, they had a couple of new modes that we got to try, but of course they weren't permanent. Some stayed, but not the new attrition mode you're thinking of.
Right. So there's a lot going on with it. I do want to jump on and play it again. I kind of want to see how it's evolved. The problem that I had with it, Mike, you remember this at the time, is like the game creates this illusion of me enjoying it, whereas actually all it's really doing is making me angry, because I'm never as good as I want to be at it, and when I get a kill, I'm really happy, but like I always feel like I end up in like, oh god, yeah, it's another 3-on-1. Like as soon as I get a guy in a situation, I can kill this guy. 2 of his friends show up at just the right time and kill me. Like I always feel like I'm always like at the wrong end of the luck equation in that game. And you ask anyone in Halo, they all feel the same thing, right? Everyone kind of is like, oh yeah, I'm the unlucky one in this game. It obviously doesn't work out that way. But I really, really enjoyed it. And I should, honestly, I enjoyed particularly playing online with friends. I should pick it up and get back into it.
Okay. And what are some of the things that you want out of the Halo experience, Gary? Like, what are you looking forward down the line? We think about co-op, we think about Forge. Is there something else on the multiplayer side that you're really looking for that might help you re-engage with it?
I still would like to see what a BR would look like. Don't you? Wouldn't you want to see that? I know we talked a lot about like maybe they don't need it. They're doing fine without it. But I don't know. I would like to see it.
Well, Gary, I have some news for you coming from our friend Jez Corden over at Windows Central Gaming. He writes, Certain Affinity is working on a new Halo Infinite game mode. So the article goes, I revealed on my Xbox 2 podcast that Certain Affinity may be working on a new multiplayer mode for Halo Infinite, according to trusted sources familiar with Certain Affinity and 343 Industries plans. It seems that the new mode is codenamed Tatanka, could be several months out at this point, and is designed to be, quote, newcomer-friendly, end quote, experience that isn't as demanding competitively than existing multiplayer modes, Big Team Battle and Arena. It also intended to entice users who typically aren't interested in Halo, potentially targeted gamers on Fortnite, Call of Duty Warzone, and Apex Legends. Depending on your interpretation of newcomer-friendly, that could potentially point to a PvE-style experience like Gears of War Horde mode, or perhaps something like Halo 5's PvP PvE Warzone, where players fought in chaotic battles against both enemy AI and players. One can also speculate that it's the goal to bring the newcomers to the Halo franchise, may point to a battle royale like mode. Gary, now a new mode like this, newcomer friendly. You talk about BR, you would like to see a BR in the Halo world. Is this going to be the BR world?
Well, it's interesting that the 3 games they cited were all BRs, right? Apex, Fortnite, and Warzone. So I do think it's low hanging fruit if they can get it right. I mean, I'm sure they've looked at it. If they don't do it, it's because they've looked at it internally and figured that it's not, like, something about this just is not compatible with like the Halo style or whatever. I don't know, but if they can do it, they're going to do it. And I think my prediction is there will be a Halo battle royale at some point in the future. I don't know if it might not be this year, but I do think we'll see one at some point. But the other options you threw out there are interesting as well, like PvE Horde mode is interesting as well. You know how much I love doing those Gears of War Horde modes. Bring that to Halo too. I would love that. Let's go fight the Flood. Flood would be perfect for that.
I mean, Gary, we saw fire. Is it Fire Team or Firefight? Firefight back in the day, I believe. And that was the Horde mode within Halo that you got to do. That was PvE. And then that evolved into what that Warzone was, which was Halo 5 and 4, which is like this massive scale PvP, big team battle, but it's mixed with different points on the map that are filled with like big AI generated monsters that you would take for control and for points. But the issue with that mode really became like loot boxes and like randomly drawn cards for guns and vehicles that just became one of those where like nobody wanted that anymore, right? So it is interesting, but for me, Gary, I'll still go back to it. I think the Battle Royale is the answer. I think that's what the new age gamer wants. It's clearly proven. We've done great with the Team Arena. It's very good. It is super fun, but it is sweaty as can be. And it's just not as welcoming as opposed to a BR where it's the hotness.
And there's nothing about Halo and its essential kind of mechanics and the way it works as a shooter that suggests like, oh, that I don't know how that would map onto BR. Like, there isn't. It seems like it should just work, right? Why wouldn't it?
Why wouldn't it, Gary? He's right. That's a great question. So it's something we'll keep our eye on. Shout out to Jez, friend of the show, for that one, revealing it over on his Xbox 2 podcast, one of my favorites right there. But we'll keep an eye on Certain Affinity because Microsoft has also teamed up with them for another project that we talked about last week. So Certain Affinity doing some things here in the Xbox world as usual. But Halo, or sticking with Halo, I have one more for you. Did you get to watch the Halo TV series official trailer?
I did. I happened to be watching the play. Actually, wasn't expecting. I happened to be watching the playoff game when it popped. So I did see it. And I thought it looked good. It looked, very slick. It looked like they spent money, right? It looks good. Yes. Master Chief doesn't look like, some guy walking around at Comic-Con. He looks like the real Master Chief, right? They spent the money. I saw some people weren't thrilled with the new look Cortana. That was the only thing I saw people really complaining about, and also the fact that they're not, and I think this is the right creative choice. They're not just retelling the canonical story that you already know from the games. It's the same universe, the same characters, but kind of remixed into a new version of the story. And I think that's the right approach. So I'm optimistic about it. I actually think it has the potential to be good. I don't know. What did you think?
Yeah, Gary, I'm cautiously optimistic right now. So there's a couple of goods that I really, really dug, right? I like the weapons. I do like the Spartan armor. I thought that looked good. I liked the first Covenant we saw with the energy sword that I'm going to interpret as Arby, the Arbiter. I don't know, maybe. But on the flip side, the other two Covenant, I didn't really like the look during that sword fight with Chief. I loved the shield reflecting with the sword swipe, but I did not like the look of these Covenants. So I'm a little worried with that. That's why I think I have that cautious optimism right now going on. But it is interesting, Gary, because I wanted to ask you, this isn't going to be the normal Halo canon story that we know, right? This isn't Chief on the first Halo. This isn't Halo 2, Halo 3. This is the Silver timeline, they're dubbing it. And you're a Hollywood guy. You know what it's like to go into a big billion-dollar IP and kind of write a story in there. What is that like for this writing team over on the other side to take pieces from the canon, but also make their own and make their own kind of timeline going on? Is that a difficult thing to do?
I think creatively, like I said, I think it's the right choice, because if you just, inherit everything that was done before, for the people for the fans that are going to come to this, who are big Halo fans, who know every beat of the Halo story as told through the games, there's not going to be any, surprises or anything new for them, right? They're just kind of feeling like, yeah, this is great. I remember when that happened in the games. I remember when this happened in the games. I think what they're doing is the more, mature approach to adaptation, which is rather than worry about kind of slavish fidelity to the original and saying, well, this has got to be exactly the same because it was this way in the games. I think that's too creatively restricting, is to just kind of put all the pieces on the table and say, well, we have Master Chief, we have Halsey, we have Katana, we have the the UNSC, we have the Covenant, we have all these, we have the Halo rings, we have the whole mystery behind those. We have all these elements. How do we take these iconic characters and story strands and mythology, and how do we kind of remix it into something that feels both familiar to Halo fans, but also fresh at the same time? And also, how do you create a show that is accessible both to Halo fans and to people who have never really heard or know much about Halo? Like a lot of people that will be watching the show will be people who don't know anything about Master Chief and are being introduced to this story in this world for the first time. You've got to please them too. So it's a big challenge when you undertake adapting a story like this, especially when there is so much chronology and so much canon material. Again, it's nice to have the luxury to look at everything that is, put it all up on the wall. Okay, we have a million different storylines from the novels, the video games, the other adaptations that were done. Like, what do we want to cherry pick, and how do we weave that into something new? That's the opportunity, I think.
How hard is it to sell the diehard fans on that, Gary? I think we see a lot of reception about Cortana and the look, this or that. And it's a lot of the hardcore fans maybe wanting that true story, wanting what they want. How hard is it to win them over? Is that a difficult task?
I think first of all, you just have to accept that you're never going to please everybody. The Halo fan base, like any fan base, is not a monolithic thing, right? They don't all think with one mind, right? You think about like Star Wars, or it's like Star Wars fans fight with each other all the time over like what constitutes good Star Wars or bad Star Wars, and Halo fans, just like any other fan base, like some people like some things more than others. So there's never going to be one like magic bullet approach to this where like the Halo fan base all kind of like comes together on one, says, yes, we all like what you did. That's never going to happen. So, all you can do is try and tell the best story you can, try to, honor the franchise, the kind of the footsteps, the shoulders that you're standing on, the footsteps that you're following in. But again, try not to. For me, what I was always told, and this is not just of adaptations, but kind of writing in general and filmmaking, all this kind of stuff, is like, don't try to second guess the audience. Don't try to worry too much about what they want to see. Like, what does the audience want to see here? How do we please the audience? Just go with your own instincts and do what you want to see. Like when I worked on Star Wars, I wrote the story that as a Star Wars fan, I would want to see. And that way, you're coming from a true and authentic place. And after that, all you can do is hope that there are enough other people out there, other fans that agree with you that is, that makes good Star Wars or good Halo storytelling. And again, not try to second guess yourself too much in terms of thinking about, will the audience like this? Like, what do they think? What do you like? You're the creator of this thing. You're the one writing or making it. What do you want to see? Go trust your instincts on that. And that's really all you can do.
Well, we're about to find out, Gary, because it comes out March 24th, 2022 on Paramount Plus. So about a month away here, and you got a full 2-minute trailer to dissect and enjoy for all the Halo fans out there. Let's wrap up the show with some big Game Pass news, Gary. Of course, it's a brand new month, so we got some new Game Pass entries, and we have a big time returner that you're going to want to know about. So for the month of February, being added right now, you have Contrast, which is coming to cloud and console. That's Compulsion Games' first game ever. So if you'd like to go check that out from that studio under the Microsoft umbrella, that's a good one. Dreamscapers coming to cloud, console, and PC. Telling Lies is coming to cloud, console, and PC. Out on February 10th, Besiege. And then Crossfire X is the big one, Gary, that you and I are going to circle and talk about. The write-up says, play the first Crossfire X single-player campaign, Operation Catalyst, developed in partnership with Remedy Entertainment. So that's the big one right there.
Yeah.
February 10th, Gary, you and I will have our eyes on that.
Remedy is the part of that makes you lean forward, right? So that's what we're interested in.
Moving on, Edge of Eternity coming to cloud, console, and PC. Then Skull, the Hero Slayer, cloud, console, and PC. And then finally, The Last Kids on Earth and the Staff of Doom, cloud console and PC. And then out on February 14th, Ark Ultimate Survivor Edition and Infernix, leaving on February 15th. So make sure to get your gaming in. And here's a good one for you, Gary. Leaving on February 15th, Control, Code Vein, Final Fantasy 12, The Zodiac Age, The Medium, Project Winter, and The Falconeer. So all a bunch of good games worth their time to go try. But Control and Code Vein leaving the Game Pass subscription. You might want to jump on those right away.
I was going to say, I wonder, Microsoft will obviously know. I wonder if they see like the player numbers on these games, like after they announce that a game's about to get sunsetted out of Game Pass. I bet you they see a bunch of activity go up, right? Because people want to get in there before the game goes away. They want to get a chance to play it before it's gone.
Yeah, I mean, it was always our goal, you and I, Gary, and Paris on the show, to make sure people knew what was coming in, but we also wanted to make sure you knew what was leaving, right? Because sometimes these games leave, and if you're not reading the updates, if you're not in the know, sometimes you might just miss out on a great opportunity to play Control or Code Vein.
Just as important to know what's leaving as what's coming in, for sure.
So here's a big one coming back, Gary, with a MLB The Show returns to Xbox this spring, and guess what? It will also be day one on Game Pass, so we'll be available on Xbox Game Pass at launch April 5th for Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and with Xbox Cloud Gaming Beta, Ultimate members will have access to it on PC and mobile devices. And I had Roger bring it up. This is actually the creator of Afro Samurai illustrated cover athlete Shohei Yotani for MLB The Show 2022. So let's first talk about the cover since it's on here, Gary. Look at how dope this cover is right here.
Yeah, it looks great. It looks very, very cool. And oh my God, look at this. $84.99. I've never, for the MVP edition, I've never been happier about Game Pass.
Whoo, right, Gary? You've never been.
And of course,
happier.
You don't get usually when a game's on Game Pass, you don't get like the Platinum Edition, right? You get probably the $60, $70 version. Yeah, but it's a base game also launching on Game Pass. It says it right there, courtesy of the great Wario 64. What would we do without him? It's nice to know because you remember how this was last year when MLB when we got the news that MLB 21, a game series that has traditionally always been associated with PlayStation first and foremost, was coming not just to Xbox and not just day one, but on Game Pass. Like we actually got a better deal than the Sony gamers on that one. I was thinking this has got to be a fluke, right? This is a one-off, right? This is not going to be like the new normal. But here it is again, like 22 day one Game Pass. This is the new normal. So it's great. I really enjoyed the last one when it came out last year. Another games that I would not have bought, but I played it because it was on Game Pass and really, really enjoyed it. And I'll play this one too.
You know it, Gary. I love the new normal with an awesome baseball sim on Xbox. And for it to also be part of Game Pass is a huge win and a great way to get the player base continuing to jump back into this awesome, incredible sim. So thank you to Xbox. Thank you to MLB. And of course, PlayStation Studios for making a great game and making it all possible. Finally, coming to Game Pass, which was announced, Gary. And this is one you should have on your radar. The creators of 2 Point Hospital, their sequel, 2 Point Campus, is coming to Xbox Game Pass as well on May 17th, 2022 for Xbox consoles. So really exciting sim out there. If you haven't played 2 Point Hospital, 2 Point Campus is going to be a ton of fun. And for that to come into the Game Pass library in May, really bolstering up that spring, that Q1, Q2 lineup that you and I talked about, right? We continue to see that third-party elevation since, the first-party games might not be there.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I really enjoyed 2 Point Hospital, obviously heavily reminiscent of Theme Hospital back in the day and Theme Park and all those kind of games.
Yes.
There's great Peter Molyneux games that kind of started that genre and Roller Coaster Tycoon, and we love these kind of builder tycoon type games. And 2 Point Hospital was a ton of fun. Definitely had that kind of old, bullfrog sense of kind of wacky humor. And you could go into a university campus next. Seems like a perfect setting for the next one. So I'll keep an eye out for that.
Gary Whitta, I want to end the show with some fun for you and I. Of course, at the beginning of the new year, you, I, and Paris took on the challenge from the PS I Love You XOXO team here at KindaFunny to host the first ever Throwdown Challenge for the Fantasy Critic Draft. And we drafted games. We're 1 month in, and I want to do a little check-in with you and I. We're going to do it with Paris as well, but we'll check in with him soon of just seeing where our games are at, where our minds are at as we
Yep.
continue forward
Yep.
with this year-long challenge between us and the other team over on the other side. And so, Gary, let's kick off right now with you and I, since we're here. Gary Whitta, you are now at minus 15 points.
Yeah, I'm not doing great.
Your counter pick of Pokemon
Pokemon.
bit us in the butt. We didn't think Pokemon
we got that
was going to
wrong. Yeah,
like it did. But guess what, Gary? You have a positive because Horizon Forbidden West comes out here in the next 2 weeks.
and
You
we know
should be on the upswing.
we
which
know
is
that's
going
going to be a banger. But Pokemon, which I thought could have gone either way. As it turns out, people do really like it. Seems like it's reviewing very well. And then the other one where I took a big hit, Mike, was, I also bet on one of my other picks was Suicide Squad.
You
And
bet
that
big on
split.
Suicide Squad.
We
Your
remember
second pick.
Remember during the draft, we talked a lot about how you need to think in this day and age of games constantly being delayed and slipping. You need to think not just about, is this game going to review well, but like in what year is it going to review well? Because so many, we talked about, any game that is kind of coming towards the end of the year, the closer you get to the end of the year, the more chance it might slip out of the calendar year. Suicide Squad has been the first major calendar, didn't just slip, but slipped all the way out of 2022. So that's I've had a terrible start to this draft, Mike.
Well, let's talk about the good things here, Gary, right? Along with Horizon, the cool part is now that this is confirmed to be pushed to 2023, you can drop this game. So you're going to get 0 penalty.
Oh, good.
And the positive is you will be able to pick up a new game in its place. So that's a big positive.
I'm going to throw that game away like a parking ticket.
Gran Turismo 7 just had its state of play. It looks good. It's coming out very, very soon. And Kirby the Forgotten Lands is coming out very, very soon.
I still think that's my dark horse is Kirby the Forgotten Lands.
Coming up here in March, I believe, Gary. So you got 3 out of your, 6 or 7 right now off the jump that are ready to review and kind of get you out of the negative points.
I need Horizon Forbidden West to come in and perform well. It's going to, right? Can you imagine if Forbidden West came out and like was a dog
Just
and
70.
people go, that ain't happening. Come on.
Oh, no way, Gary. No way.
We're gonna be good on Horizon. We got that one on lock.
Let's take a look over at our dude, Mr. Paris, Vicious, and the 696 Games. Paris right now, on a nice pickup for only $1, he picked up Nobody Saves the World, Gary, which I got to play a couple weeks ago and really enjoyed. That got him 11 points, so Paris is in the money right now with his first pickup. Then we scroll up to me, EA Sports Big, Snowbike Mike. I took a hit here, Gary Whitta. I really loved what I played with Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Extraction. I thought, this is an 80-plus game, right? This game is going to review well because I think it's good. And I went with my heart, Gary. And I think I learned a valuable lesson that day that I got 2 points on the 72. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Okay, maybe I took a hit right there. And that one really hurt me, Gary. That one hurt me deep.
Yeah, the Tom Clancy ones, the Tom Clancy franchise, right, is such a wild ride to take in terms of betting on the next game, because it's a very storied franchise. Over the year, the original Rainbow Six games, Vegas, the Splinter Cell franchise. There's so many cool things going on in games with the Tom Clancy name on it. Of course, Rainbow Six Siege is just, that's their powerhouse, right? That's their franchise. The Division, love the Division. I love both of those games. But then, Ghost Recon Wildlands, the Ghost Recon franchise has kind of gone down the toilet. Splinter Cell, are they making a new one? I guess they are.
They might be. They said, we'll see.
Who knows? Maybe a remaster or something.
We'll believe it. Yeah.
X Defiant, that looks like a mess. A lot of people are freaking out about X Defiant. And I want to go back to the Extraction conversation because I thought it was interesting. Like, a lot of people are going, well, what, there's aliens now? This isn't Tom Clancy. Tom Clancy's all about, grounded, and this is real, and, kind of political thrillers and stuff. And I've read all the Tom Clancy books. I love all that shit. I love the movies. I'm really into the whole Tom Clancy universe. It's part of the reason why I like the games. I don't mind at all them kind of putting one foot in the sci-fi realm, as long as they keep the other foot in the grounded realm. And I feel like that's what they did with this game. Even though they introduced aliens to, the Rainbow Six universe, it still felt like it's still the Rainbow organization, right? It's still a team of, kind of modern day, kind of crack military experts from around the world. It still feels like it's set in the Tom Clancy universe, but, now there are aliens running around, and the whole yellow and black aesthetic of it, like it just is a very cool vibe. And I thought that they succeeded in taking that first step into something a little more sci-fi, but without losing the Tom Clancy flavor. In that regard, I thought they were successful.
Gary, it has incredible first-person shooting mechanics. It is fun solo or with a team.
Yeah.
Awesome sound design. Great replayability. It has fun leveling right there, right? You have 12 different maps with 3 different zones within each map, which is just a lot to play. Multiple different game modes. Like, I thought this was going to smack. I thought it was going to be 80 plus. I got hit with a 2 for 72. So now I turn my attention to my next upcoming games, right? I have Total War, Warhammer 3, and Destiny 2, The Witch Queen, right? I need these 2 games here in this month to like pick me up. I need us all to be picked up.
Which one of those 2 do you feel better about?
Destiny, The Witch Queen, because it's just mass populace, but I feel really good about Warhammer 3 because there's a big following about that. I think the reviewers will be different from a Destiny 2, which is like a big mass populace game, to a Total War Warhammer 3, which is more of a like, hey, this is that subject that, only you know about. You're going to review it in a different light than that one. So I'm hoping, Gary, my mind, I'm getting 16 points plus for both of these. They're going 86 and above for both of these.
All right. Warhammer, I think, honestly, is a coin flip. I think it could go either way.
Oh, don't say that, Gary.
Destiny 2 is a very safe bet. I mean, the last few major expansions that Bungie has done for Destiny 2 have been very well received. Right? I feel like they've got it down at this point, right? I feel like they know what they're doing. The chances of Bungie making a major misstep with the next big Destiny expansion, it seems unlikely. I think they'll probably do it again.
My biggest worry is not the quality that Destiny will put out, is people will look at it and maybe judge it harder due to the quantity. How much is added? What is the breadth of this DLC, right? I think everybody really enjoys them, and we've had really big ones to kind of minor ones, and I worry that the only way that this one doesn't score well is if this thing gets smacked with, oh, it's just not enough. It's too light. It's content light. That would be my biggest worry.
And it goes back to where we first started the conversation with 500-hour games, and in the single player realm, I personally do think that 500 hours is like, what you're trying to tell me, that's a positive? That sounds awful, 500 hours. But it's a very different equation in the live service realm, right? Where the challenge is constantly keeping your player base content with content, right? They need to have enough to do. Like every expansion that comes out, whether it be Warcraft or Destiny or whatever next big thing they push, the high end squads and guilds or whatever of like they've done it in the in the first few days, right? They go and crush it. It's a race to be. Everybody wants that the round, the server first, or they want the medal for being the first team to take down a big raid boss or whatever. So everyone rushes to kind of tear through the content, and it takes them couple of years to make this content, and then some players are like, okay, a week later, what else you got? We did that, and so it's a constant arms race between the developers and the players to just keep them provided with enough content that they every day, every week they log on, there's something for them to do, and there's always going to be a loot grind, there's always going to be repetition, there's always going to be that cycle, right? It's the only way you can possibly kind of keep players busy without having to make something new all day, every day. But again, I think Bungie, probably more than any other team out there right now, has the most knowledge and has accrued the most experience over the years in terms of this. We're pretty good at knowing how to keep our players happy at this point. I mean, we don't get everything right. There's going to be plenty of people grumbling about 100 different things in the new Destiny update that we're discussing. But for the most part, I feel like they know what they're doing at this point.
It's an exciting one, Gary. You and I will continue to keep eyes on that. And for all of our viewers and listeners out there, if you got some good tips, some insider knowledge on some great picks throughout the year for me, Gary, and Paris to go win this thing for us, the Xbox group here at KindaFunny, you let us know in the comments. Hit me up on social media and we'll go from there. But Gary, it's been a great time hanging out with you, kicking it throughout the podcast.
Who needs Paris?
I miss Paris, but we had a great time, Gary.
No,
We made
Paris
it
is
work.
great. We know it's only a matter. You know, you two, you and I will be here forever as we watch our co-hosts go on to bigger and better things.
Yep.
Alana already left us in the dust long ago. It's only a matter of time before Paris big times us and goes on to whatever the next big thing in his career is. But as long as you and I are here, we'll always have each other to talk to.
You know what, Gary? There's nothing better than hanging out with you on a Friday evening. I wish we could get some pizza slices and just kick it. Maybe when we get into the Kind of Funny studio, you and I on a podcast like this, we just get some pizza. We have some fun.
Yeah.
But that is the end of the Kind of Funny Xcast for this week. So go out there, gamers, play a bunch of games, have fun in Dying Light, go do some dope parkour stuff, and we'll see you back here next week. See ya.